Nobody cares about me because I haven't run a Kickstarter yet, so we're going to talk to these guys. We have Paige Ashland, who is representing Team Triple Slash. They did Magnetic by Nature. Their goal was $10,000, and they exceeded that goal by $1,000 or something around there.
A little bit more than that.
And then we have Jared Frost, who did the game Villages, it's a card game, and they'll introduce their games as well. His initial goal was 100K, his initial goal was 1K, and he made over 1,000K. That's a lot. So he made 100K, 100K, not 1,000.
Do we have the microphone?
Testing.
Testing? Okay, yeah, you might just have to pretty close. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to give the time to them. We'll start with Paige and then go to Jared to introduce themselves and their games.
So I should just...
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it.
So, like you said, my name is Paige. I met my team at the University of Utah. We all took the Entertainment Arts and Engineering capstone class, which was kind of weird because most of us were not actually in that degree. And our game started as a student project, and about halfway through it, we realized that it had the potential to be something more, and we knew that we couldn't make it be something more without a little money. So we decided to do Kickstarter, and I guess it's on here. I should probably mention, if you don't know, the game is a 2D physics puzzle platformer. I had a little video to show it off, but I guess I can't show it, so that's fine. You can look it up later on if you're interested.
Sorry.
There was
No technical difficulties, the audio.
I'm Jared Frost. I go by Fridge Crisis online. My company's Fridge Crisis Games. That's basically just me. I put together this card game, Villages. It's got pixel art. It's just a card game. Everything's here in the box. It's not like a trading card game or anything. It's inspired by Rummy. It's pretty simple to play. You're just matching cards and stealing cards from other players. Each card has special abilities, things like that. Yeah, I put it on Kickstarter. Was asking for 1,000. Ended up with over 130,000. So that was exciting.
Was it exciting or was it terrifying?
Both.
Okay. So I have a set of kind of broad questions just to let them voice some general questions, and after those we'll open it up to audience questions. You guys can ask whatever you want. So the first question is, what did you guys do to connect your audience in a way that converted page views into actual backers?
Well, I think that's kind of like starting with the most difficult question. That's probably a good place to start. So, assuming that someone's already on the page, you know they're at least somewhat interested. And I feel like there's a couple of things you have to do. You have to turn somewhat interested into, I will give you at least a little bit of money for this. And you also have to convince them that you're capable of doing what you're proposing that you're doing. And I think that the two things that worked best in our favor in that regard is we had a pretty nice looking video, and we had, judging by the Kickstarters we were up against at the time, very nice looking graphics. The bar is always going up, and our page doesn't look that great by 2014 standards, but for the time we released it was pretty good.
According to Kickstarter, the little stats that they show you behind the scenes, a great majority of the backers came from just browsing on Kickstarter. So they were just looking for a new game to back or something that was coming out. So I guess what that means is that the art that I had, kind of like the project art that everyone sees as the first thing they see, it must have drawn them in. I would say that's probably pretty important. Once they got in there, I had everything just explained out. I've always been told that it's really important to, at least for board games, that the creator appears in the video and kind of delivers kind of this human side to the project. I mean, cool graphics and stuff are obviously good and important, but it's good to appear in the video and explain to people just sort of off the cuff, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is why I need some help from Kickstarter. I also recorded a how to play video of this game. A lot of people said that that was really effective at showing what the game is about. And same thing can be said for video games. Show some gameplay. Get on there and talk while you're playing. Be like, created this level and this is how you play and stuff. I think people will really respond to that.
I think that's true. I think for video games, it's definitely the case that the two most important things in the video are that you show gameplay and that you show the creators. A lot of the Kickstarter crowd, I think what makes them different from a lot of other game potential customers is that they want to feel like they're getting to know a little bit the people behind the project rather than just the finished product.
What were the most effective ways of marketing your Kickstarter, getting people to actually get to your Kickstarter page in the first place?
So similar to you, we had a lot of people that just came to the page from browsing Kickstarter. In terms of the things that we did deliberately, we kind of had four main things that we pushed for. We had kind of local word of mouth. We had online, like social media, particularly Twitter and Facebook. And we had sort of traditional press releases. And then a couple of us happened to know people in the industry, either locally or elsewhere, that we tried to pull in a couple of favors from. In terms of where we got the most bang for our buck, overall, I would say it was social media. We got a lot more attention that way than most other things that we tried. There was one very, very like two-sentence thing written about us on Kotaku, and that did give us a very significant boost, but it took so much work to get there, whereas it took relatively little work to do social media. So it was effective, but it was not exactly cost-effective.
It's kind of weird because I didn't do a whole lot of deliberate marketing or anything for the campaign. I sort of just put it up there. I did announce it on my Twitter feed and Facebook page, but I only have like 100 followers at the time. So, and I, for some reason, didn't track like just mentions of the word villages in Twitter and stuff. When I've tried that before, it's always off topic and stuff, so it didn't seem very useful. But yeah, it just kind of happened on its own, I suppose, word of mouth. I know some developers here locally, a lot of them backed in and probably retweeted and stuff like that. So my guess would be social media was pretty good. A couple of people approached me for interviews. I did one that's just a text interview. Yeah, it just kind of happened. I think just being on the Kickstarter page is really how people found it.
There's totally something else I should mention that's in my mind. This was not something we had planned, but we kind of fell into it as we were doing it. We did cross-promotion with like a bunch of other games that were kickstarting at the same time as us. So we would contact the developers, or sometimes they'd contact us, and we'd say like, hey, we'll mention you to our backers, and you mention us to yours. And a few of the ones that we cross-promoted with ended up going really big, like Boot Hill and that robot game Anne. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one. Like, and then Chasm. I think those were the three ones where when they mentioned us, like you can see on our graph for that day, it went up.
We'll start with Jerry this time. What was successful or unsuccessful about your reward structure and fulfillment?
So our reward structure ended up getting a little convoluted toward the end because we were constantly adding new things as stretch goals and stuff like that. And I found out early on that Canada actually has lower shipping costs than the rest of the world. So we had like US shipping, Canada shipping, and international shipping. And we sort of had to split those up in the reward levels, and it was kind of a mess. I would definitely want to simplify that next time. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. What was successful or unsuccessful about reward structures?
Okay. We had a lot of stretch goals that were reward tiers that were, the base game and the expansions put together for like $5 off. People seemed to like that. It was easy for people to want to move up from there. And actually, I think one thing that really made a difference was when I first started the campaign, it was just the base game. And then at like 10,000, I decided to add 2 expansions to the game that were already sort of developed but would need some more work. And that got a lot of people to jump up that were already there. They jumped up to the next reward tier. And that was a big boost. And I think that just got people excited, like, oh, there's more. And it just puts them in a good mood, I guess.
So similarly, one of the things that I think worked really well for us is we tried to price the lower end of our reward tiers such that it would sort of like prey on people's impulse buy, where you're like, oh, well, I'm going to give $5 for this. If I give $7, I get this extra thing, and it's like, I'm going to pay $5, I'll pay $7. And then another thing I think we did that worked out well for us is we spent a lot of time carefully budgeting for everything we were going to send to people. And this was based on a couple of people on the team who had done Kickstarters before that had not budgeted carefully and had ruined the day. So the things that didn't work so well for us, one of our higher priced rewards was sort of like letting people design a level in the game or letting people design an asset. That ended up being a lot more work than we were expecting it to be. And the other thing is that the backers didn't really enjoy it as much as we were expecting they would. I guess my takeaway was that like backers aren't designers. So yeah, and then I think digital distribution, really nice and easy. We will definitely do fewer mailed out goods next time.
I actually had a bit of a different experience with people designing custom stuff. One of the reward tiers, there was only like 15 of them, well, they ended up with 30 of them, was design your own card. And I did help them out with it. Like, they gave me an idea for what they wanted, and I would draw a little sprite for them, and test it with the rest of the game, make sure it worked, and give them feedback and stuff. And people seemed really excited about it. Actually, there was only 15. We upped it to 30, and those went in like a couple minutes. And then I announced that I would be opening, let's see. Yeah, it was 15 of one kind, and then I announced I was doing 15 of a higher tier that included more expansions. And I released them 5 at a time at different times during one Saturday, and they all went out in just like a minute. They were all gone. So people were watching, they were sitting there waiting for that thing to open up. And some people were really sad that they didn't get some. I was like, there's only so much time I can spend on these custom cards and stuff. But that's been a lot of work, yeah. Most of the time that I've spent since the Kickstarter ended was on custom stuff, and I'm just now kind of finishing with that.
So it seems like if you're going to do custom, let them design something for the game. You want it to be more modular, or they can give a general idea that they don't have to have the design skills as much.
Yeah, like if I had just let them totally create a card and put whatever they wanted on it, it might have turned out a little differently. And we are actually going to be selling those to other backers too. That's kind of like a little royalty pack as we're calling it. And so I owed it to them to make sure that it was good content as well.
Yeah, and maybe that we didn't set expectations right or place enough constraints, because like, for example, we had one backer who was like, well, I want an upside down level. We were like, okay, well, we can do that. It's not technically challenging, but it's also not really fun. So that took some work.
What would you do differently, generally, about your Kickstarter? What would you do differently now?
I mentioned kind of the international shipping prices and stuff. I don't think I charged quite enough for international shipping. This goes back to kind of the budgeting stuff. Obviously, video games have to work worry as much about it, which is really nice. But I would probably charge a little bit more closer to the actual cost for international shipping next time. Luckily, the kind of evens out. But also, I had forgotten about the approximately 10% fee that Kickstarter and Amazon take out of your amount. So when I was budgeting at the very beginning, I sort of left that part out. And it ended up being okay, mostly because we released the expansions. They sort of saved our bacon a little bit. But watch out for those. Don't forget about them.
I think things that we would do differently. One, this is more like what I will do differently. SneakerNet is not courier service. So we had a lot of people on the team who were like, oh, I know so-and-so, yeah, I'll get that to them. And yeah, that did not happen. So some backers were waiting a long time to get their things because somebody kept promising, oh yeah, I'll just take it down there next time I go to Murray. And yeah, better just to mail it. Bigger things, next time we would be more conservative in what we offer as stretch goals. Our stretch goals were well within like the price point, but we did not really factor in the amount of work that they would take. And then the other thing is, next time we'll ask for more money.
Give yourself some good wiggle room with your delivery dates. Mine is set for April, and I think we'll still be able to make that, but the stuff that we've done so far has taken a little longer than I thought. So it's always better to set your date out farther and then be able to deliver sooner rather than the other way around. There are some people on Kickstarter that get really upset when you're late on your rewards and things. So,
yeah, I'd echo that. We were supposed to be releasing in last quarter of last year. We have not. We believe that we're going to release really soon now. And as video game projects on Kickstarter go, we're doing pretty well. They're like notoriously late, but yeah, it's going to take longer than you think.
So this is the opportunity for you guys to get on the soapbox about anything you want to soapbox about.
I don't know if this is a soapbox, but I had a lot of stretch goals in my campaign. And it was really fun for me to come up with new stretch goals, and people seemed to like it. I got some responses that people would come to the Kickstarter page every day and keep checking because there was always something new for them to look at. And I think that convinced people to up their pledges and tell their friends, like, look at this, they only need $200 more, back this game. And so that was really a positive experience, but some of the rewards, people kind of expect you to spend more money on stretch goals, or like give them free things as stretch goals. And for physical products, at least, like that's not always possible. Like your budget's pretty tight already. And so if you unlock something new as a stretch goal, people might expect it for free, but I think a lot of people understand that there are costs associated with these things. And I think it's okay to unlock like an add-on as a stretch goal, because it's more work on your part. It's a way of thanking the backers for supporting you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just depends on messaging. People are pretty reasonable as long as they understand going in what it is you're.
Yeah, a lot of people said that our campaign, they really liked it because we were really transparent with them. We wrote updates, almost every day, maybe every other day. We had about 22 or so by the time the campaign was over. And it was only a 30-day campaign. So keeping them updated, keeping them excited. If there's problems or if someone doesn't like a decision that you've made, be sure to talk to them and kind of work it out. We did a lot of polls saying, like, do you guys like this or this? And let people vote. People really responded well to that. And we did have to make some course corrections. We were offering different box sizes, and there was going to be a small one and a medium one. And then later I figured out that this big one would be a lot more cost-effective and also nicer. And so what I was going to do was do just the small box and the big box. But there were a lot of people who wanted that new size box. So they got kind of upset about that. Yeah, so just talk to your backers, get their feedback, and take it seriously.
Yeah, I really agree with that. Like, especially what you say about polls. Like, we only did a couple of polls, but not only did they generate a lot of excitement in the backers, they were actually genuinely helpful for us. Like, I remember in particular, we were having a hard time with our t-shirt design. We were going to give everyone a t-shirt. So we put up like something like 6 different options, and we were like, choose the one you like best. And then people actually gave us sort of like suggestions for how we could change the image to be closer to something that they would enjoy wearing. And so then we did like a second poll where we said, okay, well, we've tweaked all the images, now choose again. And I think that worked out well both for the backers and for us. This isn't really a soapbox either, but something I should have said in answer to the last question. Kickstarter was so much more work than we expected. Like, something I would do differently next time is we would start promotion like literally like months ahead of time. And also, like, we had, so I think this is going to depend a lot on what your Kickstarter is, but if you're a video game and you want to do traditional marketing, it's going to take an enormous amount of time because you need to be writing like individually crafted emails to people if you want them to pay attention to you. And that takes a lot of time because you have to read like what this blogger is posting, you have to watch what this YouTuber is posting so that you can respond to what they're doing in a genuine way, where it's not just a form letter. So if it's a form letter, they're deleted instantly. So it's an open question in my mind if it's worth that kind of work. But if you want to do that kind of work, it's a lot of time. We had myself and another person on my team, Kyle, who were doing press releases and other kinds of outreach, and also responding to like questions that backers would ask. And it's really important to respond as rapidly as you can. So between those two things, like neither of us slept very much for a month. So the more of that work that you can do up front, the better off you are. Like I've talked to other people who are like, oh yeah, well we wrote all of our press releases before we released. We had already identified exactly who we wanted to contact. So if we go that route again, it's definitely something I'll do.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. If you can, try to like take some days off here and there. Give yourself a little break just to clear out the messages, clear out the emails, stay on top of everything. I should have done it more. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to open it up to open Q&A. How much time do you have left?
We have about 5 minutes. We can maybe stretch it out to 10.
Okay, so make them count. There's a mic up front. You can, if you have a question.
Or you can talk loud if you're good at talking loud.
Okay, so this one's for you. You asked for $1,000 in your initial goal, and you got a lot more than that. And it sounds like you were still, by adding expansions and stretch goals and stuff, you made effective use of that extra money. So what do you think? If you hadn't gotten that exceeded your goal, your initial goal so much, do you think you would have struck?
To have a physical component. There's things that you have to print. Those things have a pretty high cost. One really awesome thing is we're using a service called the Game Crafter, and they will just take your image files and whatever you upload, and they'll print them on cards and boxes and stuff. It's really nice. You can do one copy at a time. They'll send it anywhere in the world. And so we are planning on using them for the printing. So with only $1,000, we could have printed just the however many copies that people had pledged for and sent them out to them, and there wouldn't be any stretch goals and stuff, and we wouldn't have the expansions out or whatever. But that would have worked out okay, just because of the Game Crafter and their ability to work with really small numbers. A lot of board games that get printed, the ones that you see in stores, come from factories overseas that have to do thousands as a minimum quantity. So that's not really possible for something like that. I guess I just wouldn't have